In 1943, S.Goldsmith stood at the edge of complete spiritual collapse. The man who would become Christianity's greatest mystical healer was making the exact same devastating mistake you're making right now. He was desperately trying to heal with his human mind instead of resting in divine consciousness. This single error nearly destroyed his spiritual mission before it truly began. For agonizing months, Joel struggled with repeated failures, mounting doubts, and the growing horrifying realization that everything he thought he knew about spiritual healing was completely wrong. His personal human will was actively fighting against divine grace. But in one life-changing, transformative moment of complete surrender, Joel discovered the revolutionary secret that changed absolutely everything. He stopped trying to make something happen through human effort and started allowing something divine to happen through spiritual receptivity. This dramatic shift from mental effort to spiritual receptivity became the unshakable foundation of mystical Christianity. Today, I'm going to reveal exactly what Joel learned in that moment of crisis, because you're making the same mistake that almost cost him everything. And it's costing you your spiritual power right now. The mistake Joel made is the exact same mistake every sincere spiritual seeker makes without exception. We desperately try to use our limited personal will to access unlimited divine power. We pray harder, affirm louder, visualize clearer, thinking that more human effort automatically equals more spiritual results. But Joel discovered that spiritual law works in complete opposition to human logic. The moment he stopped trying to heal anyone, genuine healing happened effortlessly. The instant he stopped trying to demonstrate supply, true abundance flowed naturally. When he ceased trying to find God, God found him immediately. This wasn't giving up in defeat, it was giving in to a higher intelligence that already knew the perfect solution. The secret Joel uncovered was this revolutionary truth. Your consciousness, not your thinking mind, is the only true instrument of divine expression in the material world. Your mind thinks, plans, worries, and struggles constantly. Your consciousness simply receives, allows, and expresses divine perfection naturally. One fights desperately against divine order. The other aligns perfectly with infinite intelligence and allows miracles to unfold. Here's exactly what Joel realized about the profound difference between consciousness and mental effort that changes everything. When you try to heal with your thinking mind, you're attempting to use limited personal power to accomplish unlimited spiritual work. It's like trying to lift yourself off the ground by pulling on your own bootstraps. The harder you try through human effort, the more spiritually exhausted you become, and the further you move from actual divine demonstration. But when you work directly from consciousness, you become a perfect transparency for unlimited divine action to flow through you without any personal interference whatsoever. You don't heal anyone through personal effort. You don't demonstrate anything through human will. You simply maintain the pure consciousness of spiritual wholeness, and wholeness appears automatically in human experience. You hold the consciousness of infinite abundance, and divine supply manifests naturally. Joel called this the crucial difference between taking anxious thought and being established in spiritual consciousness. Taking thought is frantic mental activity, endless planning, constant worrying, desperately trying to make something happen through personal force. Being in consciousness is resting peacefully in eternal spiritual truth, knowing with absolute certainty that I am is the only real power present in every situation. This isn't passive resignation or spiritual laziness. It's active receptivity that allows unlimited divine intelligence to work through you completely unobstructed. You're not doing nothing spiritually, you're allowing everything divine to flow through your consciousness as perfect human experience. And that fundamental shift makes all the difference between spiritual struggle and effortless demonstration of divine harmony in your daily life. The practical application of Joel's revolutionary discovery changes absolutely everything about how you approach any spiritual work. Instead of trying to heal a persistent headache, you recognize that in pure consciousness, there simply is no headache, because perfection is the only reality. Instead of trying to demonstrate money through human effort, you rest completely in the consciousness that I am is infinite supply itself, appearing as your every need fulfilled perfectly. You stop fighting against problems and start ignoring them from the higher perspective of spiritual truth. Let me share a powerful story that proves Joel's consciousness approach works even in the most challenging circumstances imaginable. Maria was a devoted spiritual student who had been struggling with chronic debilitating pain for many years. She had tried every healing method available, attended every service regularly, read every spiritual book, but nothing changed in her condition despite years of sincere spiritual effort. Maria was making Joel's original devastating mistake. She was using her thinking mind to try to heal her physical body, affirming health while secretly believing in sickness, declaring wholeness while experiencing constant pain. Her desperate mental effort was actually reinforcing the very condition she wanted to heal most. Then Maria learned Joel's revolutionary secret of consciousness. Instead of trying to heal her persistent pain, she began to rest completely in the consciousness that God is the only presence and power. She stopped trying to make her body well through human effort and started recognizing that in spiritual reality, she had never actually been sick. She withdrew all spiritual reality from the appearance of sickness and rested in the truth of divine perfection. Within just a few weeks of this new approach, the chronic pain began to diminish noticeably. Within several months, it was completely gone forever. But here's what's absolutely crucial for your understanding. Maria didn't heal her body through personal effort. She stopped believing her body needed healing. She withdrew spiritual reality from the appearance of sickness and rested in the eternal truth of divine wholeness. Another student of Joel's consciousness principles, Robert, was facing complete financial collapse. His business was failing rapidly, debts were mounting dangerously, and paralyzing fear was consuming his thoughts. Like Joel in 1943, Robert was desperately trying to use spiritual principles to fix material problems through human effort. Robert spent many hours each day affirming abundance, visualizing success, and trying to demonstrate prosperity through mental concentration and personal will. But the harder he tried through human effort, the worse his financial situation became. His frantic mental effort was operating from the fundamental belief that he lacked something essential that needed to be obtained through personal struggle. When Robert learned to properly apply Joel's consciousness technique, everything shifted dramatically. Instead of trying to get money through human effort, he began to rest completely in the consciousness that I am is infinite supply itself. He stopped seeing himself as poor and started recognizing his true divine nature as abundance itself. The transformation took several months of consistent practice, but it was absolutely complete. Business opportunities appeared unexpectedly, debts resolved mysteriously, and abundance flowed naturally without personal effort. Robert had discovered that consciousness of supply is supply itself, not merely the avenue to supply. Sarah's marriage was on the brink of divorce when she discovered Joel's transformative teachings. Her husband was emotionally distant, communication had completely broken down, and both were ready to give up entirely. Sarah had been praying desperately for her marriage to be healed, but her prayers were filled with fear and desperation rather than spiritual consciousness. Sarah was trying to heal her relationship through mental effort and emotional pleading. She was seeing her marriage as broken and trying to fix it through spiritual techniques applied with human will. This approach was actually reinforcing the appearance of separation and discord in her relationship. When Sarah learned Joel's consciousness method, she stopped trying to heal her marriage through personal effort and started recognizing the spiritual reality of divine love as the only true presence. She ceased seeing her husband as unloving and began to know him as the perfect expression of divine love itself. The change in their relationship was gradual but absolutely profound. As Sarah maintained the consciousness of divine love, her husband began to respond completely differently. Communication improved naturally, intimacy returned spontaneously, and their marriage became stronger than ever before. These transformation stories reveal the unlimited power of Joel's consciousness technique. When you stop trying to change appearances and start recognizing spiritual reality, appearances change automatically. If these transformation stories inspire you, like this video to help others find these teachings, subscribe for more Joel Goldsmith wisdom, and comment. What healing journey resonated most with you? Beyond Joel's foundational consciousness technique, there are powerful complementary practices that significantly deepen your spiritual receptivity and accelerate your spiritual development. The first is what Joel called practicing the presence of God continuously throughout your daily activities and experiences. Instead of turning to God only when serious problems arise, you cultivate continuous recognition of divine presence in every moment. While working, you know with certainty that I am is the infinite intelligence expressing perfectly through all your activities and accomplishments. While resting, you recognize that divine peace is your natural permanent state of being. This transformative practice turns ordinary moments into sacred experiences. You're not trying to bring God into your separate life. You're recognizing that God is already the very life you're living. This recognition gradually dissolves the fundamental sense of separation from God that creates most human problems and limitations. The beauty of practicing the presence is that it requires no special time, place, or circumstances. Every single moment becomes a precious opportunity to recognize spiritual reality. The second powerful complementary technique Joel taught is going within for specific divine guidance whenever you face important decisions or challenging circumstances. Instead of trying to figure out what to do through human reasoning, you turn within to receive perfect divine direction. This isn't asking God to tell you what to do as if you were separate from divine intelligence. It's recognizing that divine intelligence is actually your own true intelligence operating. You quiet the personal thinking mind, rest in the consciousness of I am, and allow the perfect answer to unfold naturally. Sometimes divine guidance comes as a clear inner knowing, sometimes as an intuitive feeling, sometimes as circumstances that naturally open or close opportunities. The key is trusting completely that divine intelligence knows exactly what you need to know precisely when you need to know it. Joel emphasized that this inner guidance is always available without exception, but it can only be received in consciousness, never accessed through mental effort or personal struggle. The quieter your thinking mind becomes, the clearer divine direction flows. The third essential technique Joel used is releasing personal sense completely in every situation. Personal sense is the false belief that you are a separate individual who must protect, provide for, and heal yourself through personal effort and human struggle. This limiting belief blocks the natural flow of divine grace through your human experience. When you release personal sense completely, you stop trying to be the doer and recognize I am as the only true actor in every situation. You cease trying to live your life through personal will and allow divine life to live itself perfectly as your experience. This isn't becoming passive or irresponsible. It's becoming completely transparent to infinite divine activity expressing through you naturally. Joel taught that every human problem stems from personal sense trying to handle what only divine consciousness can resolve perfectly. When you release the belief that you must handle anything personally, divine handling appears automatically and effortlessly in your experience. This release happens gradually through consistent daily practice and growing spiritual understanding. Each time you catch yourself trying to handle something through personal effort, you pause immediately, release it completely to divine consciousness, and rest in the awareness that I am knows exactly what to do. These three complementary techniques work together harmoniously to establish what Joel called the consciousness of I am. This isn't a belief or a thought, it's a living awareness that divine being is your being, divine consciousness is your consciousness, divine life is your life. When this consciousness becomes firmly established through practice, you naturally stop making the mistake that almost destroyed Joel. You cease trying to use spiritual principles to improve human conditions and start recognizing that spiritual reality is the only true reality. This recognition transforms everything without any personal effort whatsoever. Health appears because you know yourself as the expression of divine wholeness. Abundance flows because you recognize yourself as infinite supply. Love expresses because you know yourself as divine love itself. Even with clear understanding of Joel's teachings, many sincere students face common obstacles that can seriously derail their spiritual progress. The first major obstacle is impatience with the gradual process of spiritual unfoldment. You desperately want immediate dramatic results, but consciousness develops gradually through consistent practice. Joel himself experienced this challenging obstacle during his early years of spiritual development. He would practice the presence faithfully for days or weeks, then become deeply discouraged when dramatic healing didn't occur immediately. This impatience actually interfered with the natural unfoldment of consciousness. The solution is understanding that every single moment of recognition, every instance of resting in consciousness, is building powerful spiritual momentum that will eventually demonstrate in human experience. You may not see immediate changes in outer appearances, but consciousness is establishing itself more firmly with each sincere practice. Trust completely that divine timing is always perfect timing. Some demonstrations happen quickly, others unfold slowly over time. Your only work is to maintain consciousness regardless of appearances. The second common obstacle is mixing spiritual consciousness with personal mental effort. You'll catch yourself practicing Joel's techniques correctly, then slipping back into trying to make something happen through personal will and human effort. This mixture seriously dilutes the effectiveness of consciousness. Joel warned against this spiritual confusion repeatedly. He taught that you cannot serve two masters simultaneously. Either you're resting peacefully in consciousness, or you're working from personal effort, but you cannot do both at the same time effectively. The mixture creates internal conflict and significantly delays demonstration of harmony. When you notice yourself trying to help consciousness along through mental effort, simply stop immediately and return to complete rest in spiritual truth. Release whatever you are trying to accomplish through personal will and re-establish your awareness in the truth of I Am as the only power and presence. This is not spiritual failure. It's simply part of the natural learning process that every student experiences. The third obstacle is expecting consciousness to work according to your personal timeline and preferences. You may desperately want healing to appear in your physical body, but consciousness expresses as improved relationships. You may expect supply through your current job, but abundance comes through completely unexpected channels. Joel learned that consciousness always demonstrates perfectly, but never according to limited personal expectations. Divine intelligence knows the perfect form of expression for each situation, and this form may be completely different from what the human mind anticipates or desires. Your role is to maintain consciousness faithfully and allow divine intelligence to choose the perfect form of expression. When you insist on specific outcomes, you severely limit the infinite ways that consciousness can manifest in your experience. Trust completely that whatever consciousness produces is exactly what you need, even if it's not what you personally wanted. Divine wisdom sees the complete picture and always provides the highest good for all concerned. The final common obstacle is using Joel's techniques to improve personal sense instead of dissolving it completely. This happens when you practice consciousness in order to get a better human experience rather than recognizing your true divine nature. Joel taught that the real purpose of spiritual practice is not to improve the human, but to realize that the divine is the only identity you actually have. When you use consciousness to get better health, more money, or improved relationships, you're still operating from personal sense. True spiritual practice involves recognizing that you are already whole, abundant, and loved in consciousness. The purpose of Joel's techniques is to rest in this recognition, not to achieve it through effort. This recognition then appears as improved human experiences automatically. If these challenge-breaking techniques speak to your heart, like to support this content, subscribe for advanced spiritual practices, and comment. Which obstacle are you ready to transform now? Advanced application of Joel's teachings involves integrating consciousness into the most challenging areas of daily life. Take your work situation as a perfect example. Instead of seeing your job as separate from spiritual life, you recognize that I Am is the intelligence, skill, and supply expressing through your career. This doesn't mean becoming passive about career development or professional growth. It means approaching work from consciousness rather than personal ambition and ego. You do your absolute best while knowing that divine intelligence is the true doer. You provide excellent service while recognizing that I Am is the server. When workplace challenges arise, instead of fighting them mentally or emotionally, you turn immediately to consciousness. You recognize that divine harmony is the only law operating, regardless of outer appearances. This consciousness often dissolves conflicts before they fully develop into serious problems. One student applied this approach during a major corporate restructuring that threatened her position. Instead of fighting the changes through human effort, she maintained consciousness of divine order operating perfectly. She was promoted to a significantly better position, while many others were let go during the restructuring. Family relationships provide another challenging arena for advanced consciousness practice. When family members trigger old emotional patterns or create difficult challenges, Instead of reacting personally, you turn to consciousness. You recognize divine love expressing through every individual, regardless of their current behavior or attitudes. This doesn't mean accepting inappropriate behavior or enabling dysfunction. It means seeing through the human appearance to the divine reality of every person, while taking appropriate human action when necessary for protection or boundaries. Joel taught that when you consistently see others from consciousness rather than personal judgment, they begin to express their divine nature more clearly in your experience. Your consciousness of their spiritual perfection calls forth their perfection and dissolves discord. One practitioner used this approach with her alcoholic brother, who had been destroying his life for years. Instead of trying to change him through human effort, she held the consciousness of his divine wholeness. Over several months of consistent practice, he sought treatment voluntarily and recovered completely. Health challenges offer perhaps the most demanding arena for consciousness practice. When symptoms appear or medical diagnoses are given, the natural temptation is to fight the condition mentally or try to heal the body through spiritual effort. Joel's approach is radically different from conventional spiritual healing methods. Instead of seeing yourself as sick and trying to become well through effort, you recognize that in consciousness, wholeness is your permanent, unchanging nature. You don't deny what appears to be happening in human experience, but you refuse to give it spiritual reality or power. This practice requires consistent return to consciousness whenever fear or symptoms try to claim your attention and disturb your peace. You acknowledge what appears to be happening while resting firmly in the knowledge of what is actually true spiritually. A longtime student faced a serious cancer diagnosis that appeared life-threatening. Instead of fighting the disease through human effort, she maintained consciousness of her divine wholeness. The cancer completely disappeared within months, but more importantly, she discovered unshakable peace regardless of physical appearances. Financial challenges provide another opportunity for advanced consciousness practice. When bills mount or income decreases, instead of struggling to get more money through human effort, you rest in consciousness. You recognize that I Am is infinite supply, appearing as your daily needs perfectly met. This approach seems completely impractical to the human mind, but Joel proved its effectiveness throughout his entire ministry. He never asked for money, yet always had abundant supply. He rested in consciousness and allowed divine supply to appear naturally. You practice this by releasing financial concerns to consciousness while taking appropriate human steps. You pay bills, seek employment, and manage resources wisely, but you do these things from consciousness rather than fear. One practitioner applied this during extended unemployment. Instead of desperately seeking work through human effort, he maintained consciousness of divine intelligence expressing through his career. The perfect position appeared with better pay and conditions than his previous job. As consciousness becomes firmly established through consistent practice, you begin to experience what Joel called the mystical life. This is life lived from constant awareness of your divine nature rather than personal sense of separation from God. In the mystical life, problems don't disappear from human experience, but your relationship to them transforms completely. Challenges become opportunities to deepen consciousness. Difficulties become invitations to release more personal sense and rest more completely in I Am. You discover that external harmony is not the ultimate goal of spiritual practice. Internal recognition of truth is the goal. When you know yourself as consciousness itself, external appearances lose their power to disturb your peace or diminish your joy. This doesn't mean becoming indifferent to human experience or withdrawing from life. It means experiencing human life from the perspective of consciousness rather than personal sense. You engage fully in life while remaining spiritually free from personal attachment to outcomes. The mystical life transforms your entire approach to helping others spiritually. Instead of trying to heal people or solve their problems through human effort, you maintain consciousness of their divine wholeness and allow that recognition to bless their experience naturally. Joel discovered that the most effective healing work happens when you completely forget about the person's problem and rest in the consciousness of God's presence. Your consciousness becomes a perfect transparency for divine love to touch their experience. This approach requires releasing all personal responsibility for others, while remaining available to serve as consciousness directs. You don't fix anyone through human effort, but you hold the consciousness that allows divine fixing to occur naturally. Many students find this the most challenging aspect of mystical living. Personal sense desperately wants to help through human effort, but consciousness serves through divine being. Learning this crucial difference transforms both your service and your effectiveness in helping others experience healing. After decades of consistent practice, advanced students discover what Joel called the natural life. This is living from consciousness so consistently that it becomes completely effortless. You no longer have to remember to practice the presence, you simply live as presence itself. The techniques that once required discipline become natural as breathing. Recognizing I am becomes as automatic as physical breathing. Resting in consciousness becomes your normal state rather than something you do during spiritual practice times. In this natural life, the mistake that almost destroyed Joel becomes completely impossible. You couldn't try to use personal will for spiritual work because personal will has dissolved into divine will. You couldn't make spiritual effort because consciousness has become your effortless nature. This is not a distant goal, but a present possibility available right now. Every moment you rest in consciousness instead of personal effort, you're living the natural life. Every instance of recognizing I am instead of trying to become something, you're expressing mystical consciousness. You now understand the mistake that almost destroyed Joel Goldsmith and how it's been destroying your spiritual effectiveness. You've learned the secret that transformed his crisis into his greatest discovery. Consciousness, not effort, is the key to spiritual demonstration. The path forward is clear, but requires unwavering commitment. Stop trying to use spiritual techniques to improve human conditions through personal effort. Start resting in the consciousness that recognizes spiritual reality as the only true reality. Let this recognition transform your experience naturally. Remember, you are not a human being seeking a spiritual experience through effort. You are consciousness itself, appearing as human experience. When this recognition becomes firmly established, everything Joel taught becomes your natural expression, and his mistake becomes impossible to make. Begin today by choosing consciousness over effort in one specific area of your life. Rest in I am instead of trying to become something. Allow divine intelligence to handle what personal will cannot accomplish. Your transformation starts with this choice. If your spiritual understanding expanded through these Joel Goldsmith secrets, like this video, subscribe for more transformative teachings, and comment, I am transformed, to confirm your new path.